So I'm going to get us started, unless anybody has any objections. So good evening, everyone. The hour being after 6:30, I'd like to call the Tuesday, March 29th, 2022 School Building Committee meeting to order. On June 16th, 2021, Governor Baker signed into law an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This act includes an extension until April 1st of 2022 of the remote meeting provisions of his March 12, 2020 executive order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Citizens with questions or comments can email mwortali@walpole.k12.ma.us or middleschoolproject@walpole.k12.ma.us. Thank you. Our first order of business is to approve the meeting minutes from March 22nd, 2022. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes? Anybody?
So moved.
All right, I have a motion from Dr. Goff. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, a second from Ms. Gayositz. Let me hold the committee here if I could. Mr. Frisha.
Yes.
Mr. Frisha.
Yes.
Very good. Ms. Gayositz.
Yes.
Dr. Goff.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Conroy.
Yes.
Mr. Fisher.
Yes.
Mr. Connor.
Yes.
Mr. Senek.
Yes.
Mr. Hahn.
Yes.
Did I miss anybody? Very good. It is a vote. Our next item is the update on the construction manager at risk procurement process, and I'll turn it over to Ken, I believe, or Brian from Compass.
I'll take it from here. I'll share the screen. So we just approved the meeting minutes, and so in terms of the process, that just a quick update on schedule. That today we interviewed we interviewed Charlotte and W.T. Rich today, and yesterday we interviewed Bacon and Fontaine, and that we will be looking at for the selection process, that we will be looking on the April 4th, that there will be a meeting to determine the ranking, and on the 5th we'll be coming back to the SBC for the approval. And for today, and then so this is the process that we expect that the 4th that will be coming back for the 5th coming back for the SBC approval. And for today, that we do have the and I think that's it for the time for this. And then the next item is the TAPE's presentation on the VE list, and we need to finalize that today.
Thank you, Ken. Cafe ready to go?
Yep. Mr. Tinsky? All right. Minimize this. All right, so we wanted to make sure we showed the table of contents here, which is all the documents that you've seen on.
Invoice here is from
Hang on just one second.
EMA in the amount of $97,588.40. It's the M.
We lose Chris?
Matt, are you on?
Sorry guys, I had a technical.
Hi everyone, I'm just walking in the door.
Sorry, I had a technical thing. All right, so the table of contents you've seen with the documents that are in the folder, you had that link to those provided previously, and so hopefully you've all made your effort to go to that website and look at those. So that's all here. Everything in there is up to date and ready to go. That's the approval we're looking for tonight on on those things there. As an overview, this is what's in there. So the Division 1 are all OPM deliverables. So excuse me, I'll just keep going. Okay, so OPM, that's Compass, has done a lot of work to review the submission. All of these items are basically, to confirm that they've reviewed and recommended. They've done a coordination review to look at the documents versus, previous comments, and also coordination within the trades. They've also sent us a commissioning review, which generated a few comments that our team has commented back on and either agreed to or given clarity to the comments themselves. So that's also in the package. You remember back at SD, the MSBA provided comments, and the district and design team worked to make a response to that. That document, as provided back to the MSBA, is included here. Just they like it to be, captured here. And then Compass has reviewed that we've worked to make sure we include all of the things we said we would include here. Project schedule remains the same. You saw that thing that the schedule that Chen presented earlier, on schedule to start construction this summer and be in the building in fall of 2024 with the final site work and parking, things like that in the summer following. The project scope and budget is here. So this is basically the precursor to the estimates, just to say that they were about 0.3% apart, which is really, really good in the sense of cost estimating. You can see the two separate cost estimates here, and then the reconciled version down here, which was $441,000, which you'll recall that's more expensive than what we need to be at for the design development budget. So we showed this slide last time, which highlights the left schematic design, which was the basis of the project scope and budget at just about $92.5 million. We're at $98.4. That creates a delta of $5,842,000 that we need to find for VE targets. We started talking about this last week to get it back on track. And that brings us to that VE log, which you had the ability to review last week. We dropped it in the folder as we updated it. A final version went out today, but that summarized, we have in the enclosure, we've recognized about $540,000. In the exterior, we have about 1.7 million, interior, 775,000, the site, 1.6 million, and the structure is 328,000. So I'll go through a few of these items. I'm going to switch to the live document here and just show the spreadsheet and just go through them. So, don't want to get stuck on much of the details, but the items in yellow are the ones that are actually the TAPE recommended items, or we should actually say that's the whole team. The district has reviewed these, the working group has reviewed these. We've gone over them for several weeks now. So the ones in yellow are the ones that we've recommended. It's the same list that you saw last week and had the ability to go through again. I do not believe we received any comments or questions back from anybody, at least I didn't see any personally. And so the only changes we've really made to this document are formatting to show the yellows are the ones in the recommended list, with the subtotals below each category, which were summarized on the previous slide I showed. And so going through this list, you can just see where all of these items are at in terms of VE. And because we spent a bit of time last week going over these, and presumably people have had a chance to review them over the course of the last week and send in questions and we didn't get any, I guess we could pause now and see if there's any questions. But what we need to arrive at is, there's a little formatting thing here. I need to change that. I'll work on that right now. But we need to arrive at that $5.9 million, 5.8 roughly, to get it to 92.5. And I'll adjust this formula real quick if there's any questions.
Do you have any questions or comments about the VE list? All right, hearing none, I guess we can move on to item 6, a vote to accept the value engineering list.
Sorry, Dan, I was muted. I have a couple questions.
Oh, okay, yep, go right ahead.
My mistake.
Registration and compliance.
I apologize. Chris, if you add up the yellow, does it does that total come out to 5.4 million?
Yep, hang on one sec. It's right there. It's 5,035,000, and then you run it through the markups, and you get to 5.9. So we have about 100,000 buffer here, which we're recommending we keep in, because we know we're probably going to be having this conversation again during 60% CDs. We're going to do everything we can to prevent that, but keeping a little bit of a buffer will help us later.
Okay, I have a couple of questions up in the exterior piece of it.
Okay.
On the calcium silicate, you were going to change that to CMU.
Yeah.
One of the reasons we put the calcium silicate in there was originally we had talked about the fact that you were showing metal, the metal cladding that was going all the way down to the ground, and was concerned about damaging it. And so we added you added a lot of in for the calcium silicate. Basically, you're taking it out entirely.
Yeah, but do you mean adding masonry or adding cost? Because the calcium silicate is less expensive than metal panel, and so we went down to calcium silicate. Now we're saying, and take out the calcium silicate out of the project and put CMU in that place.
Okay. So I didn't realize that. So the calcium silicate is cheaper than the metal panel?
Yes, sir. By a lot, by almost double.
Okay. So by substituting the CMU for the calcium silicate, you're basically going to avoid any problem with damaging the metal panel due to ditting and so forth like that, and you're going to be putting a cheaper, more durable piece of exterior cladding on them.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Jack. Ms. Fisher? Hamilton, pardon me, Ms. Hamilton.
Hi, I just had a question. Could you explain what the solar scope is for the, I think it's under exterior?
The solar scope. Oh, right here, solar scope. So previously we had showed a modest amount of solar panels on the gym. It was about just around 5,000 square feet because we weren't sure where the energy model was going to track in terms of savings. When we got that energy model back, we confirmed that we don't need to put solar on the building right now. We will make the building and the roof solar ready, but we don't need to put the actual solar panels on the roof to help with the energy performance. So we're saying that we could take that out from the estimates.
Okay, so we're having it set for solar, but we will not start with solar at the beginning.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so that cost will come down further on.
Yeah, so that you
solar
can
panels.
right. You could either buy it or do a power purchase agreement, which is the most common way to do it. But yeah, it's not. It wouldn't be included as part of this project for the actual panels themselves.
Okay, that was it.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, I would accept a motion to accept the value engineering list as listed in your packet. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from, I'm not sure who that was.
Jen.
A motion from Ms. Gaositz. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second from Ms. Hamilton.
yes.
Let me pull the committee if I could, please.
And,
Mr. Cook.
Mark, can I
Yes,
ask
Jeff.
a quick question?
Sure.
If we go ahead and we vote on this and it gets into the package, can we revisit some of these at a later time once we get farther along with detailed design?
I believe they do. I believe it's, yep. Yes, Jack. Sure.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let me pull the committee. Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Ms. Gaositz?
Yes.
Dr. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Conroy?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Dr. Hahn?
Yes.
Mr. Senek?
Yes.
And I vote yes. It is a vote.
Cafe. Anything else?
Yep, so the rest of the project the submission that goes to the MSBA is this, the section 2, which is all about scope and budget. We will update those versions of the final budget as amended based on this vote tonight, where Chen and Compass can go in and update the value engineering list and make sure that it shows we're on target for the total project budget of $115,768,814, which is what you've agreed to with the MSBA. There will be one early package, which is basically the enabling phase that we're targeting for this summer as soon as the CM is on board. There's some conversations about maybe exactly how that'll unfold, and so we're excited to get the CMs on board to go through that, but it just suffice it to say that there's one early package. The next major section is general requirements. I won't go through all of these. The biggest one in here, I think, of interest for this committee is probably the energy model calculations, which were sent out. They were in the folder previously, and then we've updated some of the numbers, but these were also sent out earlier today to you so that you can see this based on the meetings that took place about a year ago, basically May and June of 2021. The project was going after and pursuing the Eversource Path 1 incentives, which provides incentives back to the town for achieving a less than 25 EUI target. The building is still on progress to do that. We're going to do some tweaking as we get into the CDs to make sure we fall under the 25 and keep on track. But we're very close as it is right now. And then the other big piece of information here is if you can look at the baseline design building is one that uses electricity and gas. So last week it was asked about comparison of a more traditional gas building. And so that's a baseline model there. The proposed building uses no gas, which is what we voted back in 2021. And you can see these two buildings side by side, and based on the energy rates that the town has locked in, the all-electric building, the proposed building we have right now, is tracking at about 10% less than the baseline, the building, if it was designed with a mixture of gas and electricity. And so that shows you that the building is pretty efficient and pretty good, and the district has these numbers and has been in on the conversations, and I think is planning for the operations of this accordingly, which was also talked about last year. And then we had, to round out this category, just a few more documents here that just basically highlight all of the work that's been going on for DD. Namely, it's been drawings. Space summary, the section 4 is all about the space summary, so we just certify that nothing has changed, which it hasn't. Little tweaks here and there, plus or minus 10 square feet are considered minor, and so we just kind of update that as a line-by-line comparison. And then the DESE, which is Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, is a letter we received back in SD. The MSBA asked us to include that again here and confirm no deviations, which we haven't. And then project approvals and narratives on utilities and status of everything that we're going through, starting with right now the land disturbance process with conservation, and then the designer estimates and drawings and specs. And so all of that was in the folder, and so I think the next step, Mark, is to vote for submission of the DD package as it was in the folder online, and then as just summarized in that presentation.
All right, we have a question from Mr. Senate, I believe.
Yes. I actually, Chris, I had a question on the general requirements doc on the model calculations. It looks like in the baseline design, the usage is slightly higher than the proposed. So I was trying to understand how a building with a natural gas, so a second form of resources, would have a higher electricity usage than a building that actually has only electricity. So I would think that the usage should go up if we're not using natural gas in the proposed, right? it does look like the cost is higher, so I don't know if that number is just off on the proposed usage.
No, it's not, because those are not the efficient systems that we're talking about using here. So those are the more traditional
Okay.
big fan, big blower, big volume kind of systems, and what we're proposing is the VRF systems, which are a lot more efficient. That's why you can switch over to an all-electric system and still be more efficient than you would have been otherwise.
Got it. Okay, and then the cost itself is a little bit higher, even though the usage is less. Is that correct?
For the baseline?
Correct. Yeah, based
Yeah,
on
and
what's proposed.
Basically, I think the difference is the unit rate of the gas here is taking that. You can see line by line the electricity. The electricity is a little bit more, but the gas takes the baseline option over and above the baseline or the proposed.
No, I was just actually looking at the usage KWH on baseline design and then proposed. Baseline is a little bit higher than proposed, so usage obviously is more,
Yeah.
but the cost is different.
Chris, I think you have a formula problem in that in that spreadsheet.
Oh, the 299. I see. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Well, no, that I'll go back and ask, but I think they, let me go back and ask. I'll make a note of that.
Yeah, because I'm assuming that the cost of the electricity is going to be the same, right? I mean,
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Part of the reason that this might be the case is that the utility company charge different rate for summer and winter, and then so I'm wondering whether so this is something potentially be a case where the one season is more expensive than the other, and then that's what you're seeing. But I think that the best thing to do is for Chris to go back and correct that and report back to the committee.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, Jack, right ahead.
All right, Chris, what have you guys done analysis of both junior highs, what they're using for energy versus what this will be in today's market?
We have that.
Jack, we have 2019, I believe, is the data that we have. The current junior high, the two schools combined total currently use the utility bill of that year was $213,219.
Okay. And what it's going to be on this using the same rates back in 2019, has that been done?
We would have to equalize that because the back in 2000 because a 311,000 number is using the rate that projects out to the year when the building opened at 24. So that would be required, or we would need to require that. But the easier way to sort of, this is both gas and electric, so we cannot completely do just simply the unit.
Well, then index the gas up to now and the electric, now what we're paying at the two junior highs and against your electric model.
Yeah, we have that. We did the 3-year analysis of 17, 18, and 19 and compared those rates to the projected rate at the time. So the next step, we'd have to take the current usage rates and put those against the current usage and put that against the rate that's being projected here.
Okay, I'll do it simply. If you pay $213 in 2019, if this school was online back then, what will our energy cost be? Above or below $213? That's what I'm going with.
Chances are it will be above because the new building has both air conditioning and as well as a much higher fresh air being pumped into the building, whereas the existing building would not have meet those requirements.
So okay, so what I get out of this is this EUI and this wonderful stuff. At the end of the day, we're gonna pay more for utility costs than we are now with the combined two. Is that what I just heard?
Because we have to build it to current day standard with moving much more fresh air than the existing building, and also we are providing air conditioning.
No, I understand all that. So my point is, in the world of green, we're actually going to use more energy for this school than we are for the two schools we have now. That's a fair statement.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Green's great.
No, Jack, so if you did the baseline model of the new school based on the current codes and having fresh air and the current systems that are in there and the systems that would be going into the new school from a just system perspective, whether it's AV, security, everything being more electric than it was at the two older schools, that cost of that building to operate, the electricity would most likely be higher than the existing two schools, even though the baseline of the new school would be more energy efficient than the two existing schools. What we're doing here with the EUI is increasing the efficiency of the new school to drive down the costs of operating the school to even lower, so that delta is less, and we'll get the updated rates. But if you didn't do the lower EUI, you would be paying more in energy bills because the school wouldn't be as efficient. But out of the gate, regardless of what you picked for systems, you'd be paying more in energy, especially on the electricity side, most likely because the building has more systems in it than the old schools did. Which is a common issue with all the current buildings. You build a building today and put AC and security and all these electrical things in it. Your electric bill is higher than the old building that you're getting rid of.
Brian, understood. This is from a typical person wanting to know, geez, we're getting a new green building, our energy cost should be half. It's like selling me solar panels and I'm going to save $10,000. So in reality is, because of the new codes and it's required to do, and with a green building, you've upped the usage, therefore you've upped what your final cost is. So all said and done, whatever people want to say, the green is great. Yeah, not really. It's still the pocketbook. That's what it comes down to. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Ms. Hamilton?
Just to follow up with the cost of the electricity and taking out that solar scope, it seems that we're looking into that for some of our other buildings. So once we get to the point that we can add solar back to this building, how does that impact that number?
Well, obviously it would if you add solar to the building and make it go down, make your energy consumption pre-meter go down, then your energy bill will be less, obviously, right? So I think that's the simple way to say it, is that any investment you make in solar is going to help your energy bill go down. And what also happens is if you do it through, say, like a power purchase agreement, typically solar arrays have somewhere around like a 7 to 10, 12 year kind of payback, depending on some of the nuances. But if you did a power purchase agreement, you can lock in your utility rate, which would probably be, could be somewhat less than what we're showing now, and you lock that in over a long period of time. And so then they put the solar on your project, and you're buying electricity at a little bit of a lower rate. But either way, the building is set up and ready for that. And so you have options later to address the power bill itself, the electricity bill itself, through a couple different measures. So.
Anything else, Ally?
Thank you. That's all.
Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, I would accept a motion to approve the design development submission package to the MSBA.
So moved.
All right, a motion from Dr. Goff. Could that be a second, Ms. Hamilton?
A second.
All right, very good, thank you. Let me poll the committee. Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Ms. Gaositz,
Yes.
Dr. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson. I think he had to leave. Mr. Conroy. No,
Yeah.
Mr. Anderson votes yes, thank you. Mr. Conroy,
Yes.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Dr. Hahn,
Yes.
Mr. Senek,
Yes.
and I vote yes, it is a vote. Anything else from Cafe or Chris?
I think that is all set. Pass it back to Compass.
Yeah, Mark, I'll just add, I sent out an invite this afternoon for the 5th, next Tuesday. That will be a brief meeting to provide a final update on the construction manager selection committee and a recommendation for a CM.
We also need that meeting to approve the meeting minute for this meeting, because this vote accepting the VE is required to be part of the submission to MSBA.
Great, thanks, Jen.
That's it.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I would take a motion to adjourn.
All right.
I'll take that as a motion.
Done.
Yeah, I just got a motion, Mark.
All right, motion for Mr. Conroy, second from Ms. Gaositz. And we poll the committee. Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton,
Yes.
Ms. Gaositz,
Yes.
Dr. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson, Mr. Conroy,
Of course.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Dr. Hahn,
Yes.
Mr. Senek,
Yes.
and I vote yes, it is a vote. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Mark.
everyone.
Thank you.